just when you thought it was safe to go onto iTunes. This is Next Level Guy, the only website that makes self-development as fun as going to the movies. It's time to take the red pill and escape the Matrix.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Next Level Guy Show podcast with your host, Ian Dawson-Mackay. Today's guest is Gary John Bishop. He's a Scottish personal development expert who gives real and raw advice that actually works by telling it as it is. Gary is able to reach through the bullshit that you're holding on to and help you fix the deeper issues that have been holding you back from becoming the man that you want to be. Gary's best-selling book is Changing Lives, and you'll want to get a copy today. If you're thinking of buying it and you want to know what else you should check out, simply go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates. This is where you'll find all my special offers, discounts, codes, and listener deals that I've set up with some awesome companies. For me, I particularly like the awesome fitting, super comfy jeans from Barbell Apparel. They're designed for guys who are quite muscular and want to show off their gains. I also like the Gains Boxes, which is a monthly subscription box full of premium fitness goodies which are sent directly to your door. You should also check out some of the coolest gear for the best prices from those great guys at Hackberry. They help you become a better man by improving every aspect of your life. If you want to improve your dating skills, you should check out The Natural by RSD Max. And if you want to become a beast in the gym, you can't go wrong without picking up a copy of The Lifting Lyceum by Greg Nichols and Omar Isuf. To check out these and more, simply go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and enjoy. There really is a present for all men and even yourself, no matter your taste, need, or area that you wish to improve. And now, let's get to the interview with Gary. I really enjoy this one, and I know it's going to help so many people. Enjoy. If I met you in a bar or a party or other some generic location and I asked who you were, and you had 30 seconds to reply, like I say, between floors and a lift, who would you say you are and what you do?
I would tell you that I'm somebody who spends a lot of time at home thinking. Occasionally I write some stuff and occasionally I talk, and apparently there's people that want to listen to it, so that's what I do for a living.
I'm sure you've had that question more times. Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those you've got to begin with. So,
yeah,
was there a turning point that made you start to get into this whole personal development? Was there an issue that you had as a younger man?
Oh my gosh, this could take up the whole time here. So I like everybody else, I had a childhood, and if you're not, most people would say they're affected by their childhood. If you say you weren't affected by your childhood, you're not thinking hard enough. Like, you're just not looking hard enough. You got to really challenge yourself to see that. What were the ways that I was affected, both good and bad, because ultimately they both become constraints. So when I started to do the work on myself, it was really, it was at the behest of a relative of mine who said, I think you should do this personal development workshop thing. And I just rolled my eyes. I was like, oh, for the love of God. I just thought, what does this guy think of me that he would ask me that? He must think I'm losing my mind or something. And I said, my exact words to him were, I'm not doing your stupid course. And he said, I'll pay for it. And I said, when is it? And I did it. And it was really challenging. It wasn't one of these things... wasn't one of these things where I went in the door and it was like, okay, everybody breathe and get in touch with your chakra. And it wasn't like that. It was more like, you're an asshole. And that was like shocking. I'm like, what? I don't need somebody telling me that, I'm a problem. I'm here to get some insight on to handle the problems that share my life. And at that time, it was a lot to do with my marriage, And so I came out of it like rocked. I just suddenly realized that I have a point of view. But not like a point of view like I don't like onions. That's a point of view. I like onions, but if I didn't like onions, that's a point of view or an opinion. We don't relate to ourselves like that we are some kind of combination of opinions and judgments and points of view. all of that comes together and gives you a very kind of unique experience of being yourself. And I could never see myself until that time, until, midway through the 2000s, that I started to see that there was a me, like a specific thing that I could start to work on. And it was the beginning of the self-exploration, which isn't too fascinating. I mean, you could spend a lot of time picking fluff out your belly button, but I actually started to get very as I was doing a lot of that work on myself, I should say, I started to really get like the difference that I could make with people and like have my life be about something that actually inspired me. And I've been doing that for about a dozen years ever since.
And do you see a sort of common pattern of like where modern guys, where they come to you with problems? Is it the same sort of bullshit? Is it the same kind of problems, or is it quite different depending on their religion, where they're from, how their upbringing is, etc.?
No, it's all the same. It's all the same. So I've been all over the world doing this kind of work. I've done this in Hong Kong. I've done this in South Korea. I've done this in Bogota, Colombia. I've done this in London. I've done this in, LA and Vancouver, and you name it. And there's something very, very challenging about being a human being. And the most challenging part of all is we tend to look at our problems in terms of what's in front of our face. So, like if I'm not getting along with my spouse, we talk about bullshit things like communication problems, which, when you're arguing with your spouse, I don't think you're having a communication problem. I think you're communicating pretty well in that moment of time, actually. You're like telling her she's a bitch and she's saying you're an asshole. And yeah, you guys are kind of getting it all out there. So people tend to pursue those lines of, well, it's a communication problem. Or they'll say, we're just not compatible. Or I want to bring the magic back, so we should just drink more wine. So we tend to approach our lives in this really surfacey level. We never really penetrate and get to the depths of what's going on, unless it's through some kind of psychological examination, which, I don't know if that's for everybody, and I don't know if everybody would say it would work for them. So I'm very interested and very fascinated in the degree to which people can investigate for themselves with a few pointers and uncover things for themselves that are like aha moments, like moments when suddenly things make sense, that when I realize this about myself or the way that I do life, it changes everything. And those kinds of things are available to all of us as human beings. And in fact, I don't care where you go in the world, it's the same bullshit, just a different tune.
Because that's what I really liked about your stuff was you're not one of these, you see these 10 a penny articles of this is what you need to do to be successful. This is what you need to do to be happy.
Yeah.
And not every single guy can do the exact same thing and get the exact same results.
Right.
I mean, we just see, and I like that about your stuff. It was, for the person, it was finding the drama, the dragons, the demons inside yourselves, and actually going, fix that, do that. Like you're saying, like the the awakenings,
right,
to make people improve. Can you go into a little bit about like what do we associate? Because I loved the way you looked at it. Was that what is your actual identity? How do we define ourselves as a person? Is it our emotions, our feelings, our self-talks?
Yeah.
What is our me as a better example?
That's a really great question. It's one that's perplexed philosophy and all the sciences for a long time. I'm not proposing to have the answer to that question, by the way. I'm proposing to have a particular angle on it that might make a difference for people. But as far as neuroscience is concerned and your brain's concerned, there's no locus of you in your brain. So that is, there's no place in your brain where Ian is. So Ian doesn't exist as a phenomenon. There's just what Ian does exist in terms of brain patterns. So there's no like little glowing lizard of Ian in the middle of your frontal cortex or whatever the hell. And That's not there. Then what is, Ian, or what is Gary or anybody listening to this call? Well, apart from the skin and bones, and that's when people tell me, like, there's something inside me. I'm like, yeah, it's similar to the stuff you'll find in a butcher's shop. That's all. There's nothing going on inside you that you won't find, on the refrigerated section of Asda. It's just meat and bones. The thing is, though, there is something happening with you. There's something unique happening where you are. So the first thing I want people to get is you're not your body. Your body isn't you. In fact, you can chop bits of your body off and you continue to exist. The only thing we haven't worked out how to do yet is chop your brain off and have you exist, but we're at work on that. So then where do I locate myself? Where do I find my identity, if you like? Well, my particular field of interest, if you like, not expertise, it's interest, is a couple of philosophical domains. One is called ontology, 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 which is just basically the study of being. And you're a human being. It's not the study of being like some kind of nebulous, state. It's being like a definitive kind of being. So then what is being? Being can be described as a way that you think, a way that you act, and a way that you feel. All of those in combination would be a way that you be. And if you get down to it with a human being, you'll find that they have a very definitive range of beingness. It's very definitive. It's very predictable. And they, as an identity, can be described in terms of those ways of being. So I might be being analytical. If you're someone who is analytical, you'll find you're analytical all the time. You're analytical when you're standing, putting petrol in your car. You're analytical when you go to work. You're analytical when you're talking to your wife or you're talking to your boyfriend, or you're analytical. And there's some other components there, but being analytical might be foundational for you. Other people would say, I'm not so much analytical, but they might be hardworking, like being hardworking. That is, they speak, act, and experience themselves in terms of that hard work. So there's a range of being that you are. And the most important part of that, for me anyway, is those ways of being rise and fall. And they rise and fall in the dialogues that you're having with yourself and with other people. So to tie a nice little bow on all of this, you're nothing more than a habitual conversation about yourself and life. And that's your life experience right there in that dialogue. And if you want to live a different life, you got to start getting aware of that dialogue. You got to start interrupting that dialogue. And you got to start shaping and creating some other kind of dialogue that might be in alignment with the life you really want.
See, I really like that. I mean, it's the way you look at it. It's this is where I always have the issue with people who come along and go, no, there's no point. No, can't do that. Can't do that. And I was thinking, if you don't even believe it yourself, how are you going to even achieve it? Can everybody change? Can everybody listening just now who's going, no, I've been like this for too long, no, won't change, can't do that. Can everybody change?
Well, you got to get first thing you got to get over is the idea that you need to believe you can change. I don't care whether you believe it or not. That's got nothing to do with it. Your belief is bullshit. Whether you believe you can let go of it has no impact on the game itself. I mean, you're from Scotland. Our national pastime is football. Guys hit shots that they don't think are going to go in all the time, yet they go in. There was no belief. They just hit it.
Especially the Scottish national team.
Well, yes, particularly the Scottish national team, and excuse for strikers that we have. But anyway, so you'd have to really start to do more something called examining. So what I say to people is, you persist, and when I mean you, I mean like Ian persists, and the very next thing that falls out of Ian's mouth. So that's where Eaton persists. So he persists into this moment and follows into the next moment with the next thing that falls out of his mouth. That includes the things he's saying to himself. So you persist in that language of like this moment to that moment to that moment. So the moment you say I can't, well, now in this new moment, so a moment ago I asked you, can you change? In this new moment where you say I can't, what's now here in this moment is I can't, therefore I can't persists. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So your life is given by what falls out of your mouth next. I'm not interested in changing how people feel. I think that's one of the mistakes in this industry. It's to get people to feel different. You're starting in all the wrong places. That's like asking one of the Scotland strikers, like, let's build up your confidence. I would say, why don't we work on his shot? Why are we talking about his confidence? He's skying it. Yeah, his confidence isn't there. He doesn't need his confidence. He needs feet. So I'm more interested in not how you're feeling about change. I'm more interested in what are you doing about it. Because when it comes down to it, you can feel any way up the yin-yang about something, but nothing will change until you act differently. You might feel better about it. You might be more inspired about it. You might feel a little more settled about doing it. But ultimately, you'll still have to do it anyway. And so I'm more interested in people dealing with where they're at. That is, I don't think I can change yet. I'm going to step out there and take the actions anyway. That's what I'm talking about. That's like when in the book I talk about being relentless. It's about going beyond what you think and feel you can do and start to act on something that's outside of that, like outside of that paradigm. Because if the way I put it to clients sometimes is one of us is going to be right. Which one do you want to be right? You or me? And if they say, I want you to be right, then we got a game going. And if they say, I want me to be right, I'll say, thank you for your time. This session's over. So, and it really is that way. You're either going to be right about it or you're going to give up your righteousness about it and do something about it.
No, so I like that approach. So you're saying that we're shaped by our actions rather than what we feel, and we go and say to people, oh no, you just need to think about it and feel a bit better before you can do that. You need to feel more confident before you can do it.
Right. I mean, we're in a time of positive psychology. We've been in it for about 30 years. So it really has been, and look, there's nothing wrong with positive psychology. There was a real good reason why we ventured down that pathway as a group of people, because we'd had, hundreds of years of personal suppression, people suppressing themselves to fit in and conform. And at some point in the 60s or something, it was like there was this kind of breakout phenomenon where people started to express themselves. And what followed on from that is this thing called this personal psychology, like it's okay, and look, it has its place, but it's kind of drifted off into the periphery of the current consciousness, where we're now coming up with some just plain old-fashioned weird shit to impact the quality of people's lives. And it's one of the reasons why I wrote the book. I wanted the book to cut through. I wanted it to penetrate an ocean of, quite frankly, voodoo. And it's done that. The book sold, well over 100,000 copies. It's kind of like my mission now. Like, I want people to realize this kind of self-affirmation, or this kind of like, well, the bullshit lines that we sell. You can't love anybody until you love yourself. Who the fuck made that up? When did that start? What do you mean you can't love anybody else until you love yourself? You've got a cat. You love your cat. You don't love yourself, but you love your cat. If you can bring to bear the love for your cat, you can bring it for another person. It's not imperative. It's all like self-love. I say stuff like maybe a little bit of self-grace, maybe a little bit of self-forgiveness, maybe a little bit of like giving yourself the room to make mistakes.
So what about those ones just now, like I mean, I've gone through, periods of like really bad and negative thinking where
Yeah.
it's like an internal prison, it just seems like impossible to escape because it's inside your head. How can somebody, who's sitting there going, yeah, that sounds great, but I just can't take that first step. How can we start that procedure?
Yeah, it's really one of the things that we try and do, Ian, is we try and change that internal dialogue. So we try and like make it go away, right, or do something about it. But it's like an insect bite. The more you engage with it, the worse it gets. So if you scratch a mosquito bite, you'll end up with an infected hand. Well, if you try and make your internal dialogue change, you're just going to grow that thing. You're going to make that thing be what your life's about. So what I'm more interested, and by the way, when people say I can't, you got to realize that's a choice. It doesn't seem like a choice. In the moment, it seems like I don't have a choice. And I know that because I've been there many, many times. But you got to start breaking that down. You got to start relating to it like, okay, so I'm actually currently choosing not to do this. Whatever this might be. And that's why I introduce in the book like these statements, these interruptions to your own bullshit, that if you take the statement on and you say, you know what, I'm just going to act in accordance with a statement. I don't feel like I should. I don't feel like I want to. But I'm going to make this statement and I'm going to live. The next thing I'm going to do is going to align with that statement that I just made. And it's like, it's like weaving something. It's like you're building something. It's like, then the next action is in alignment with the statement that I made. And then the next action, and then the one after that I did, and I screwed it all up and went back to the beginning again. But then the next action, I went back to it. And it's that, like weaving the presence of something in your life, something new, something that you want. And sometimes it takes time, and you got to be okay with it. It takes time. You don't let yourself off the hook for it. You're not like, well, this takes time, so maybe I'll just eat a pie supper in the meantime. It's like, no, this takes time, and I'm going to hold myself to it. As I often say to my clients, your success in life as a human being, it's almost exclusively tied to the degree that you can keep a promise to yourself. And I mean, like, keep it. I don't mean like did most of it, but for this bit, or did a good job, but never quite, or I was going to do it, but it snowed, or my cat died, or my father got cancer. It's like, no, all that shit happened and I still did it. And that's kind of like what you have to deal with as a human being. You're going to have a life either filled with reasons why you didn't do it or doing it. And people live with this illusion that somehow in the doing of it, the conditions have got to be right. No, the conditions aren't right for what you want to do. You don't feel it. They don't feel it. It's the universe. It doesn't have your fucking back. The universe it's universal. It's everybody. It's not you. So the universe isn't looking out for you. If it was, nobody would get hit by a train. If that's the universe looking out for you, you can keep it. The universe does not have your back. You got to realize that when you say shit like that, you're like offering it up to some, invisible deity. The reality is, it's never right to do the thing you want to do. It's never the right time. It's never the right space. It's never the right moment. So what? That's how it is. Like, I can't do it right now because, I've got a lot of debt. I don't care. Handle it. Work it out. Well, but my mom really needs me. Okay, I get that. Your mom needs you. Okay, work it out. And people don't want to work it out. They'd much rather acquiesce and explain their lives. The German philosopher Martin Heidegger said this. He said it a lot more eloquently than I'm about to say it. But Martin Heidegger said, human beings would rather explain their lives than intervene with them. And that's just a blanket statement that fits us all. You just have to find out, well, where am I explaining it? Because sometimes some people think explanations and justifications are dramatic. They're not. Sometimes they're very reasoned. They're very dry and matter of fact. But it's still the same bullshit.
Well, I mean, that's why I really liked the book. I could have done it with it about 10 years ago because I went through the period of, kind of depression. I'm thinking about this, I'll plan for this, I'll prep for this. So life went by, and I kept thinking, oh, so and so's watching, they're caring about what I'm doing, but no one really gives a fuck.
That's right.
You've got to go out and do what you do, and I've only really been happy when I've just got, even though I felt like utter shite or nervous or scared, I've just gone and done it. You hear these people who say, oh, fake it till you make it, or you have to feel more confident, or feel loving and the world will love you back. And, that's something I got from all the comments on, say, your Amazon reviews. People saying it's like a breath of fresh air. You're actually, you motivated me to do something rather than telling me how to feel about whatever I want to do.
Right. And I think that's the paradox at times. I think we wait in our lives. We wait until the thing I'm about to do and how I feel are aligned before acting. And so you've got all these people like waiting on a feeling. And that's what they're doing. They're sitting, waiting on a feeling, like when the moment strikes or the day comes, or and other people, like people who have like a way of being called being analytical. They tend to say things like, well, I'm still working out pieces of it that are really critical to the and you'll notice they persist, those things. It's so that you don't actually have to act. As I said, like, it's not all human beings aren't all, it's not like you have to be necessarily negative or necessarily depressed or necessarily in those spaces, and you can be in those spaces, and we often find ourselves in those spaces. I myself have been in those spaces in my life. But then there's this, it goes all the way out on the other end of the spectrum for people that are like, no, you don't understand. I really am going to do this. No, I'm telling you. I mean, this is on. I'm doing it. It'll be March. I was going to be November, but there's just some extra pieces that need to get put in. I don't live that way. I don't do that. I get committed first, and then I work out how the hell I'm going to do it. I'm not interested in working out before I get committed. Why the hell would I do that? I'm just giving myself room to talk myself out of it. So I commit first and then go for it.
Because I'm sure we've all got those friends, that they've been starting a business for 10 years. They've been trying to get fit for 10 years. And, and it's they seem to care more about the how we got to where we are instead of looking, where we're going to go and how we're going to get to that step.
Yeah.
Are emotions something we should ignore to an extent? Are they kind of holding us back? I mean, is there anything that we can learn from the emotions that we're creating, or should it just be a case of feel it and just do it anyway? Well, obviously with an extent.
Yeah, I think that emotions are important. I don't want to be dismissive of it, like, we're just like lumps of wood, unfeeling. I don't mean that. What I mean is we've got them way too high up the ladder of importance. And that they are important, but they're not everything. It's not where you should be basing your next act on. Like, oh, it just didn't feel right. You need to do a bit more thinking about that feeling. Now, there was something about, you got to define it. Like, what is it that's got you unsettled? You don't make a choice based on the outside chance that it was the cornflakes you had this morning. You got to define and do the thinking. And it's this kind of lazy cop-out that we have, and look, I'm not saying this like I'm having a go at people. I'm people too. But it's this kind of lazy cop-out that we have. We don't do the rigorous thinking. We don't hold ourselves to account. And you'll notice, look, and I would say this to all your listeners, the kind of feelings that I'm talking about, these aren't new ones for you. This isn't some like, oh, I've never been so afraid. It's the same bullshit. It's the same like, oh yeah, this is the same feeling I had when I was 17 and I meant to ask that girl out there, chickened out. Or it's the same feeling I had when I was 22 and I went in that job interview and I puked up outside and blew the whole thing because I didn't want to go in. And it's the same feeling I had when I was 28 and my girlfriend chucked me. It was the same feeling. It's the same stuff that you're using. It's like, so that would tell you right there, I'm in some kind of pattern here. I'm trapped in some kind of cycle of automatic response to certain situations. I got to cause a breakthrough for myself here. I got to realize I'm going to get to a certain point with certain situations, and that old familiar experience is going to be there, yeah, I'm going to step over it and I'm going to go right in anyway. Why? Because on the other side of that feeling is a whole new expression for me, is a whole new domain of success and accomplishment. And you don't get to do great things in your life without being racked by guilt, uncertainty, dread, fear, every negative emotion you can experience. When you take something big on in life, all that negative juice that exists within you will come gushing out, and then you'll have to act on it anyway.
I'm just when you're talking about that, I was just thinking of the number of times where I've not, there's been a pattern and I've felt it and done it, or I've given up and then I've felt like shite, and it kind of becomes its own self-repeating.
Right. Self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
It kind of blows you away when you stop and really go, oh. And then you start seeing each thing again and again. I mean, Brent Smith, who I interviewed, I think it was my second time, he was saying about how you just change your story. If you think you can't do that, just say, well, I can do that, and then just go do it.
Yeah.
But it's the action that you have to do as well. So how does it affect us by, the thoughts that we're thinking, how we speak to other people? Are there like phrases and ways of looking at things that we should stop doing to kind of help us?
Yeah. I mean, look, if you stick to the philosophy that people like Martin Heidegger, Hans-Georg Gadamer, Edmund Husserl, some of the German existentialists from the early part of the 20th century who did a lot of this work. I mean, there's a lot of people before them, but this was a big part of Sartre as well. I would say you're a creature of language, so as you speak, there you be. And the important part of that is, like, you got to start getting conscious of, aware of the kind of language you're using to capture life, because that's all language is doing. It's just capturing life. Like, a coffee cup is only a coffee cup because it captures the thing that a coffee cup is. Right? So there it is. And the words coffee cup capture that thing for me and such that I can interact with it. So if you look at like your life as language is like what you use to create the environment that you live in. So there's that thing, and I give that thing a name, and it exists for me in the paradigm of that name. And then that person, well, they've got a name and they've got certain characteristics which exist for me in language when I've looked at their behaviors and I've been able to categorize them. And then myself and a table and the fireplace and the door and the weather. And so all of these things have a certain kind of significance to them depending upon the language that I use, right? So if I, for instance, have got a project to do and I say, I'm going to try to do that project, I mean, it's already uphill. I'm going to try to do it. There is no trying. You're either going to do it or not do it. Are you doing it? Yeah, I'm doing that project. I'm doing that project is very different from I'm going to try and do that project. What we don't realize, it seems like these are just like subtleties that are relevant, No, there's a whole world that gets created when I say the phrase, I am going to try. It's very different from the world that gets created when I say, I am doing this now. That's very different. It puts me in two very different places. And so it would be important for you, for your listeners to say, well, what is the language I'm using to capture my life experience? Like, I spoke to a lady this morning, and it was actually on a professional basis in terms of like she's a publicist. And, a lot of what I do, Ian, is if I hear something with somebody, I'm just going to tell them. I don't care whether I'm speaking to you standing in a supermarket, I'll tell you. So I said to her, what do you something about you, like you're really, I don't know, is it sad or disappointed? What's going on with you? And she was like, what? I said, what's going on with you? Like, what is it? Is it sadness or disappointment? The big long pause. Then she said, I'm sad. I said, okay, what about? And by the way, this is in the middle of us negotiating a deal for publicity for my book. I said, what are you sad about? She said, I lost my marriage this year. I said, where did you put it? She was like, what? I said, you said you lost it. Where did you put it? She said, well, I don't mean that, like it's over. I said, well, that's different. She said, how's it different? I said, one's a loss. And she really got it. She got like how she'd emotionally bedded herself in with the notion that she'd lost something, like a personal loss. And then all the emotional states associated with losing and losing something you wanted. Yeah, I mean, she's got one foot nailed to the floor. She's perpetually sad. And I said, you got to start taking the approach that my relationship ended, that it was unworkable, it wasn't working anymore, and it was time to end it. And then she really got in the conversation with, I spoke to her for about 25 minutes. She said, I really got to consider the idea of being in a relationship again. I said, exactly. So it's when people say they're stuck or they're unmovable, the only thing that's stuck is the way you talk about it. And by the way, I should add to that, and that's what impacts how you feel about it.
So, I mean, to take those people just now who are, well, I mean, the people say those who have depression, in air quotes,
right.
You know, not the chemical balance depression, but the blues or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah.
How can we grade like bad things? You know, how do we know at what point that's actually a proper problem? Or is every problem a way of saying, oi, this is something you need to deal with? This is look at me, you should be dealing with this to avoid it happening again?
Yeah.
How can we reframe it?
It's such a challenging thing, depression. It's like the chicken and the egg. So what was it happen? Was it the dialogue that happened first or the chemical imbalance in my brain that happened first? At some point, they're both in sync. So what I'm saying and how I'm feeling are in sync. So I'm not smart enough to know which one came first. I do know they're both very real. And so people who use antidepressants to deal with the chemical imbalance, that's fine. You'll also notice, though, as you're taking the antidepressants, you'll talk about things in more of an upswing. So people say, well, my outlook's better. Your outlook gets formed in language. So you're talking differently than you were before. So it's kind of like this, and then there'll be this point where the chemical balance of your brain and the language are again in sync, but this time it's kind of on an upswing. So I would say to anybody who's in those states, you ought to start realizing that with every word that falls out your mouth, you're either condemning yourself or rising yourself. And I know it's not easy. I know there's times when, like, you're desperate. And you got to start somewhere. And if that means, you got to go and get the meds and all that stuff, that's all fine. But you also got to realize you got to start retraining yourself, the way you talk about yourself, the way you talk about language. Life, the way you talk about people, and start to frame it for yourself in a way that works for you, that empowers you, that doesn't make you resentful or angry or resigned, but in fact lights you up. Because that's the ebb and flow of your emotional state, is in the kinds of conversations you're having with yourself and others.
Because, I mean, some people might even just get better by thinking it differently. Because like you were mentioning before, is you change the world, you create the new neural pathways when you start thinking more positively. So does that mean then maybe your brain is getting better, are you getting an upswing in mood and all that because you're going a more positive approach with a thought?
Yeah. Well, I mean, go ahead.
Sorry. Well, how can they say it's the chemicals when you're changing your outlook on life, Right,
and that really is the question. And by the way, as far as everything I've read anyway, no one's answering that question. No one's saying, well, it was the chicken first, or was it the egg? Oh, no, it was the egg first. Nobody's saying. So in the absence of any definitive proof, and again, both things being very real, I would say to people, you got to do with it what you can. You got to do with it whatever you can. I'll give you an example of the narrative changing, though. So, that I think might be useful to people. So, I'd lived my childhood. My father was quite the drinker, you know, he full international honours for Scotland. My father was a cooper. He made whiskey barrels. And he drank a lot of what was in those things. And my mother basically raised the four of us on her own. My father was gone for most of my childhood. And by the time I got out of that childhood, I had a lot of resentment. Amazingly enough, not for my dad, but for my mom. Like, I was very angry at her for what I thought she should have done. And how she fucked my childhood up. And how she was selfish and only cared about herself. And that, you know, didn't give a damn for me. And I was the forgotten child. I was the youngest. I was the only boy. And it was fine, though. I mean, I was like 17, 18, 19, 20. I still had a pretty positive outlook in life. It wasn't until I got into my late 20s I realised that I wasn't letting it go. It was still with me. And I had a working kind of relationship with my mom at the time. I mean, it was like, you know, I'm going to see my mom. But there was no free flow between her and I. There was this kind of obstacle. And we didn't argue, we didn't fight. There was this kind of like space where I couldn't quite be myself. And then when I started to do this work, and I realized that how I'd turned out wasn't a function of what she'd done, but rather a function of what I said to myself about what she'd done. And those are two different things. Mm-hmm. So for those of you listeners that are in an argument, currently still in an argument with your parents, because your parents won't agree to your version of events. Like you say this happened and they say that never happened. Well, here's the reality. It didn't happen. Why? Because there's 8 billion views of life on the planet, and you're arguing over whose is right. And the reality is they both are. The movie's the movie regardless of the seat you're in. You get the movie according to where you're sitting. And that's the same in life. The problem is, though, my reality, I seek agreement for my reality. So I might ask my siblings, I might talk to my friends about it, and they're all nodding their fucking head like, yeah, she was a bitch. That's right, Gary. And then when I started to do this work, I started to realize I was an asshole. That I'd killed the relationship with my mom and blamed her and blamed her and blamed her and blamed her. And every time she did something that was aligned with what I was blaming her for, I jumped all over it like evidence and proof. Like, see? There she fucking goes again. And the reality was the woman had no chance with me. Now, I'm not saying she was like a saint. She had her own shit to deal with. The problem was my childhood was about judging the job that she'd done. Like, there I am, 9, determining what she should have done better with me. Or 12, or 14, or 17. And there was a point in all of that when I got her humanity. When I got she was fucking struggling. And it was hard. And she gave it her best shot. And she fucked some things up. And it's okay, I made it. And it wasn't always the way I'd wanted it to be. And I wanted blankets and chicken soup and, you know, I love you. And I didn't get that. That wasn't my childhood. And she didn't love me the way that I thought she should. She did it her way, which was by telling me where I fucked up. But what I started to realize was that I could have compassion for her. And I could love her just the way she is. I don't have to change anything about her. And I could invite something into my life that I hadn't let into my life since I was a little boy. And that is the love of a mother. And I didn't need my mother there to experience the love of a mother. It was like I could let myself be with that I was loved. And it was fucking radical. It was like magical. It was like, holy shit. And the whole paradigm changed for me. Like, I couldn't even look at her the same way. Whenever she got upset, I'd just be like, yeah, it's my mom. So what she does, it's okay. Nobody's going to die. So that's an example of how, like, you can reframe your whole past such that it has an impact on you that it actually nourishes you. Or you can just choose the one you have and have it eat you up like a fucking cancer.
Yeah, because I mean that's an amazing story, because that's what I say to people is there's like an event happens, two people are watching it, neither of you actually takes what happened. You see your interpretation of the event through your own bias, your own values, and that was something I was going to ask you about, was how can you let go of this bullshit, you know, like an ex-girlfriend breaks up with you, something from childhood, you know, it's, I love the way you looked at it, it's you're not dealing with the person, you're dealing with your interpretation of the person.
Right.
And, you know, I think even just that alone will probably have blown so many people away, because of so many of us carry this through and we use it as justification for, I see my dad fight, so I'm fighting, I was loved, so I do this, I do that.
Yeah.
It's just...
Look, I have this statement I sometimes say. I put this up on Facebook. You can look me up on Facebook. I got like 250,000 people that are follow me on that in that particular platform, and sometimes they get really pissed off with me. You know, like they're furious because I'm saying shit that conflicts with their own myth. So they don't like it. They're going to fight for their fucking misery rather than deal with what I'm saying. And so a few weeks ago, I put up a little meme, and it said, "You'll never get over your past until you first confront the degree to which you've used it to justify yourself." And people hated it. They fucking hated it. And, you know, they were like up in arms. And eventually I said to them, look, at some point you're going to realize I've just told you how to free yourself of your past. And you're going to realize you're fighting for yours. You're not fighting for my version of your past. You're fighting for your version of your past, yet you say you're miserable because of it. And that's why people listen to me talk in certain environments and they poo-poo it. Because if they adopted what I'm saying, then not only does it alter their whole past, but it alters what you've told everybody and what you'll now have to tell everybody, given what you've now discovered and taken on for yourself. It's like you literally have to reinvent yourself. You might have to become somebody who forgives and accepts and understands rather than is out to prove their point. Now, there might be no glory in that initially other than in your health, I guess, because, you know, your blood pressure will go way down. But if you're not questioning yourself and your own set of, and I'm saying this in quotes, beliefs, if you're not questioning that, then you're destined to have the life you've had to this point. You can't change your life circumstantially. That's the problem with trying to just constantly impacting your circumstances. You know, like, oh, I want to make more money. The problem with making more money is it's you with more money. It's still you. It's still the same shit. That's why a lot of people, when they get wealthy, they go off the rails because they realize the money never fixed it. And I know there's a lot of people listening right now saying, well, I'd like to fucking try. I get it. I know. But it doesn't change anything. No, you got to question you. You got to work on you. You got to develop you. The answer to everything you ever wanted lies in the fucking bathroom mirror. That's it. Period. Every time. No exceptions. And if you can confront your own identity and confront yourself and deal with yourself and start to get responsible for what you've done to yourself instead of being addicted to what you think other people have done to you, but rather starting to confront what you've done to yourself with what other people have done, then you might start having a say in the quality of your happiness.
Yeah, I can remember having insulted by some knobend at a party, and it was, I feel furious because of him, and I was thinking, no, I'm allowing him to make me furious. Or,
yeah, I would even go a different way. I would go a different way. What you said there. He's not making you do shit. It's not even like I'm allowing him to make me furious. It's like he's doing what he's doing over there, and I'm getting furious at that. Why the fuck am I doing this? Why not? What's he saying? What are you saying, dude? You think I'm an asshole? Okay. All right. Anything else? Yeah, I think you're full of shit. Okay, good. Anything else? No. All right, we're good. It's not about letting people do things to you. Like, as I've heard this so many times, Ian, people say, They push my buttons. Yeah, you've got fucking buttons. What are you going to do about that? How are you going to handle your buttons? Oh, well, I'll just cut them out of my life. You can't live that way.
I mean, I almost stopped I almost never did the podcast. I almost never went for the job I'm in now. I almost, I was allowing other people, and it's amazing that no matter how much we grow and develop, there's always something that we have to keep working on and going, So how do we do this? Do we do it all at once, like, and say, I'm going to watch what I'm saying, I'm going to give this a shot, do that? Or, like, do we do this step by step?
Yeah.
How can we stop, basically, a guy listening who wants to transform their life?
Yeah.
Just dive bombing, basically.
Yeah. So there's lots of programs out there you can do that will give you this experience of everything's changed, right? Like the whole context of your experience will change. Now, that's fine, but at some point you're going to have to get down to the nitty-gritty of being alive. So I say to people, if you want to change your life, you have to start by improving your relationship with your promises. So there's a quality of your relationship to your promises. So there's there's what you've said you're going to do, and then there's the quality of that relatedness between those two things. Now, in between those two things, some people are unstoppable, and other people are totally stoppable, right? Like, some of your people that are listening right now have got an agreement to be at work every day by 9. Yet 2 days out of 5, you're in there at 9:05, and yet you say to yourself, good enough. That's not 9:05 good enough. That's a fucking way of life for you. Good enough. No, you get your ass in there every day by 9. Why? Because that's your agreement. You agreed to that. And you should hold yourself to it. Well, the train got cancelled. I don't fucking care. You've lived here long enough. You know how the trains go. What's your backup plan? Right? Like, are you somebody who honors what you said you would do? And if you practice that in very small ways, like, all right, I'm going to start treating what I say as if it actually matters. And that what I say when I say it is not fuckable with. That is, you can't fuck with what I'm saying. Neither can I fuck with what I'm saying. Then right there are the seedlings of a real life of power, satisfaction, fulfillment, accomplishment. Like, that's how you start to accomplish great things in your life. Not by being up to big things and coming up with brilliant fucking plans. A monkey can do that. The question is, can you do it? Can you execute? And if you can't execute the 40-minute journey to work every day on time, there's not much fucking hope for you.
I've got actually a couple of colleagues like that, always rocking in late, and you think, how? You're 40 odd, you should know the prep and plan, but it's always somebody else's fault. They'll never accept blame for it. So how can we make sure? I mean, I was asking the various social medias, and I had a great question from a reader who said, what is like how some parents live their lives through their children's.
Yeah.
How can we ensure that we bring up our children not as another shot at our own our own youth, but actually be healthy, strong, and not be messed up.
Yeah, you're fucked. So as a parent, you're fucked. You're so fucked. You're fucked in the way your parents were fucked, right? Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, like, your parents did their best and then you made shit up and believed it. So here's how people parent. And I'm saying this as a parent. I have 3 young boys. My oldest is 12. My youngest is 3. People parent either as the mirror image, so living up to some ideal of their own parents, or the opposite of that. So it's either I'm going to do what my dad did, or I'm fucking not doing what my dad did. Right away, I'm bringing in a model for parenting that's got nothing to do with my kid. I'm not parenting this kid, I'm parenting a model. So I'm going to give my kids everything based on what? Right? I mean, like my oldest son, you give him things, he's delighted. My middle son, you give him things, he doesn't bat an eyelid. But in my model, I'm going to give the kids what I didn't have. Am I addressing their needs? So that's the first thing. It's about giving up the idea that, one, you know what you're doing. Because as a parent, you don't know what you're doing. You're making it up every day and pretending you know what you're doing. And anybody who says that's not true, you're full of shit. You're full of shit. You're making it up and you fucking know it. And once you give that up, like, oh, it's my job to give it my best shot with this kid. So I remember, like, I often share this. I had this, I think this was my oldest son, was about 8, and he'd done something he wasn't supposed to do. He said something to his teacher in class. It wasn't that bad, but it was kind of rude, you know. It was just offhand. And so I pulled him up for it, and he was really indifferent. He was really like, okay. And he's 8, and I'm like, what the huh? I'm like, hold on a minute. No, you don't get the significance of this, young man. You really got to step it up here. Okay. And I'm thinking, what the hell? He's treating this like it's nothing. And I'm like, well, that's fine. Then, you know what? No more PlayStation for the rest of the week. What did he say? He said, okay. And I'm thinking, what the are you kidding? You know what? No PlayStation for the rest of the month. And he said, okay. And I found myself like raising the bar, trying to get him to the point where he would break, where he would cry, and I could get my message through. Luckily, I stopped myself and I said to him, you know what, kiddo? You know how you're still working out what it is to be 8? And he said, yeah. I said, well, I'm still working it out what it is to be a dad. So you and I need to talk about this. This doesn't work. You need to have some kind of consequence to this thing. What do you think we should do? And we sat down and worked it out. In fact, he was out to give himself a bigger punishment than I was. He was like, I think I should be kept in for the next year. I was like, relax, you're 8, for the love of God. But I really got like what it is to be an authentic father, is to admit to my children that I've not worked it all out, but between us we'll work it out. And it was pretty radical. It was pretty like a big changing point for him and I. Like, and him and I still do that. We still like, well, what do you think? And he's really great. He's like, you know, yeah, it's not appropriate. I shouldn't have done that. And we'll work it out with one another. Like, you know what? I was going to get you those new soccer boots. We're not doing that now. All right, that's fair. And it's really like this partnership. You know, I mean, look, I have the ultimate say. I'm his dad, but at the same time, I want him to get. He's a being. He has the ability to think in concepts and abstractions and come to conclusions. And I want to encourage that with him.
I love the way that you looked at that, and then you actually realised it wasn't what he'd actually done; it was how you were reacting to it. You know.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of fathers, like, you know, friends have started having kids, and they play a character of a father.
Yeah.
They're not actually themselves. And
that's right.
You notice it. People say, "Oh, you've changed since you become a father," and you're like, no, they're trying to be what they think a father is, not actually just be themselves.
Yeah, people say, like, I'm turning into my dad. No, you're turning into who you thought your dad was.
I just know that there's somebody just now with going, oh my God, that's what I'm doing wrong. That's why me and my son don't get, it's just like, I looked at the timer just now as we were recording this, and that's how I know this. I love interviews like this where an hour feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You could just feel like you could talk about this for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're pushed for time, so I need to give you a time to give a shout out for the book, because to say that it's transforming lives and, you know, just making people be in the moment and enjoy themselves and actually be themselves, you know, what can we expect from the book? You know, why should they go and pick up a copy?
Well, first of all, it'll probably be the best 12 quid you've ever spent. It's it's a, you'll rock that book in a day. It's 30,000 words right between the eyeballs. There's no fluff, no page fillers. There's 2,000 years of philosophy crammed into 30,000 words in a way that can relate to your life. And if it doesn't get you up on your feet and have you do something different than you would have done before, then you need to read it again.
Because I couldn't understand how, when I read the comments, seeing your Facebook, seeing the content you're putting out, I couldn't understand why you were not absolutely massive. Like the level of, I don't remember what you call it, like the modern, like on all these kind of magazines, stuff like that. Because you're giving stuff out that it's life changing. It's not fluff. It's actual.
Yeah.
Change your life.
I'm kind of getting there, Ian. I'm very new on the scene. This whole self-development, self-help thing, there is a lot of fluff in it, and I do cut through a lot of that. Yeah, and the book's done amazing. I mean, it's only been on release with a major publisher since the 1st of August this year, and it's already sold over 100,000 copies. So the book's doing pretty dang great. We're about to go on another big publicity run here, which should take us really up the charts quite a bit. It's an international bestseller. It's a bestseller in Canada. It's a national bestseller in the United States. And I'm now working on the second book. I mean, there's a lot of great things happening, a lot of big plans coming. But I'm really committed to making a mark in this field because I really feel as if there's a lot of bullshit in it, and I think there are people that really want to help, but they don't want to be treated a certain way. They want to be related to like a powerful human being, not like some victim to something.
And that's why I kept reading when I needed this help, and there was just so much. It was like, here's a template, just change your name at the top. The whole industry was, no, we don't want anything that might rock the boat. We want to keep this stream of, the same thing over and over and over. Right. And it's no wonder guys have just sucked lately. Oh, that didn't sound right.
Well, but I get what you mean. I mean, look, if you go into most of the kind of personal development people, you go into their websites, I mean, you could literally cut their head out and put it on the next guy's page. It's the same stuff, I mean, I like to say it's kind of like I'm like the Sex Pistols in a sea of the Bee Gees, and I just want people I don't want to fluff people. I don't want to sell you courses for $3,000 that inspired you to think of yourself like a fucking tiger. I want to. First of all, I'm always authentic. I'm always real with people who follow me, and I'm. Anything I do, if I give you something, I'm going to sell you something, it's going to be valuable and it's going to be affordable. Like, you're not going to have to spend fucking $10,000 to reinvent your life. You could spend $400 with me and flip your life on its head. Not as one of my one-on-one clients. Those guys pay. They actually pay for me to write books, and it's that income that allows me to get freed up and do the other stuff that I do. But you can go to my website or go onto my Facebook page. There's free things there. There's blog pieces and all kinds of stuff you can read about me, and interviews that I've got there, because I want people to get that if you don't have a lot of money, it doesn't mean to say you can't transform. It's not for the rich, and it's for the rich. It's for who wants it.
That seemed to be the thing. So there was a price in transformation. It was like, oh, you must have this course, and it's $800.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, if I don't have that, I can't transform.
Yeah.
It's that bullshit. It's like you had to have the money to get to that level.
Right. I mean, I'm doing next week. I'm flying to San Francisco. I'm delivering the first of three courses that I'm doing there with a live audience. And the first course is all about self. It's about unfucking you. Okay. The next one will be about unfucking your relationships, and the last one will be about your purpose. Like, what are you using your life for? But the first one's all about you and being you and being yourself. You buy that course and own that course and download it and all the downloadable materials in it for $149. Right, $149. There's a sale right now where you can buy it for $99. It's like being in an audience with me for 4 hours while I grate my way through people's real lives. And you'll get tremendous value out of that. And, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. You got to find the right kind of discipline that you like as a human being. If you like my kind of style, then follow it and interact with it and start to implement it, start to use it to further what you say you want your life to be about.
So, I mean, you've given some absolute gems throughout this, but what do you want the overall going home message for anybody listening?
Yeah, it's like the change that you want in your life, it's right there, and you're either going to spend the rest of today perpetuating the myth of your past, or you're going to spend the rest of the day working on your future. And it's moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day. You're either filling your life with how great you want your life to be, or you're perpetuating the past. And there's no excuses. There's no reason. It's on you, and you got to step up. The cavalry ain't coming. Nobody's gonna fucking save you.
I love that message. Well, I'm actually really disappointed we've run out of time, because this has been an absolute brilliant, just a chance to sort of rack your brain. I definitely want you to come on again, because I know this is going to help so many people. But how can we keep in touch? How can we find out more about the book, see the promotional stuff?
Yeah.
How, is it just a case of GaryJohnBishop.com?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so if you go to GaryJohnBishop.com, my website, you can sign up there. If you sign up at the website, you'll become what I call as a national. So you'll be part of the Unfuck Nation, and you get updates and blog pieces and stuff like that, and you get discounts on courses and cool shit and T-shirts and all kinds of cool stuff, and occasional videos from me as part of the nation. You can also find me on Facebook, right? Which is if you look up Gary John Bishop on Facebook, or 1 in 7 billion, you'll find me on Facebook, or at Gary John Bishop on Twitter, at Gary John Bishop with Instagram. You'll find me in any of those spots. And look, like I said, you can buy my shit or not buy my shit. I don't fucking care. But the bottom line is, if you follow what I do, you'll get value if you want to get value out of it. So no matter what you do, no matter what level you engage at, and I'm looking to take care of everybody who follows me, from people who have no money to people who can afford to pay for a course or two. You'll get value no matter which level you engage with me at.
And I know that's why you'll succeed. You genuinely care. It's not just making money. You actually want to help people.
Take the boy out of Glasgow.
Well, I honestly cannot thank you enough. This has been this is probably life changing for those listening. You're definitely coming on again, because there's so many questions. We've just scratched the surface.
That's right.
The floor is open to you. If there's anything you want to say, any tours coming up, any promotional visits.
Well,
the books?
Yeah, I don't have any tours coming up. I do have I'm putting a lot of energy into these 3 courses of mine. They're called the Unfuck Yourself courses, and like I said, I'm really out to make them very worthwhile to people, and very affordable to people, and I'm committed that they get just knock your socks off value out of them. Like I said, the first one I'm doing is next week in San Francisco, and it's I'm really excited by it, because I'll probably have 30, a very select group of 30 people in that audience. And we're going to dive right into the depths of their lives and into all their bullshit and get it all on the surface and connect it for the people that are watching online. And if you go to creativelive.com and type in my name in the search box, it's actually at 9 a.m. Pacific next Thursday, the 14th of December. You can actually look in on that live at no charge if you're going to register with Creative Live. And that's free of charge, so you can go in and watch that course happening. And I'm looking forward to that. And I guarantee you, if you just look in on it and you observe it happening, you'll get something for yourself out of it too.
Well, I'll definitely be checking it out.
Good.
I love Creative Live. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'll send you as much traffic as I can, because I know you're changing lives.
Awesome.
And you thoroughly deserve everything you're getting.
Awesome.
I'll include all the links. We'll get everybody to buy the book, because it's definitely worth it. And you should put the price up now.
That's it for another week. Thanks for listening. Absorb it, practice it, use it. Until next time, keep trying to hit that next level in your life.